Hi, this is Amit Pathak once again, and today I'm going to share with you simple techniques to make any language, no matter what sentences you use, literally any language that you use, incredibly powerful and effective in bypassing any resistance from the listener. Would you like to learn that? You might be wondering, how do we do that? You see, there are special words and phrases that, when introduced in any sentence, practically eliminates resistance and increases their receptivity. When you know these words and phrases, I bet you will be surprised as you have been using them all the time. The trick is in understanding their usage, planting them at the right places in your sentence structure, and knowing how the mind actually handles these words and phrases. So, what are these words and phrases? Well, there are basically two broad categories of words. The first is a set of words which we call as the causal linkage words that seamlessly link or connect two distinctly different ideas or concepts or sentences and make them feel like one. The second is a set of words that create a sense of possibility or plausibility, a sense of credibility or feasibility with respect to the suggestions that you install in the listener's mind. You see, it's not sufficient to simply state a suggestion and hope that the listener will perform or act according to that. You see, the suggestion should also sound credible to the listener. You need to reinforce that suggestion with a sense of credibility that those suggestions will actually make sense to the listener, right? So let's take the first category of words, which are called as the causal linkage words. These are a specific set of words that join one linguistic argument with another one, even if they are not really related whatsoever. They develop a cause and effect relationship between something that is happening now and something that you want to happen as a suggestion in the listener's mind. Now, why on earth would we want to do that? So let's say you want to tell a person that he has good self confidence and you know that he enjoys playing football. Now, as you can see, these two arguments, A, enjoying football, and B, you have good self confidence, are completely unrelated. There is absolutely no connection between enjoying football and having self confidence. But if you join them together, something like, I know you enjoy football a lot, and that means you have good self confidence. Or, playing football is a fabulous way to build self confidence. Now, in this way, we have joined one area of his life which he knows is true to something else which he doesn't know yet, but we have just linked them together so that the sentence makes sense and he begins to believe in it, right? So, in this way, you are linking an argument which is undeniably true with something that you wish to install in the listener's mind. Now, here we have three types of causal linkage words categorized by the perceived binding strength or coupling strength that they are able to produce. Let's see each of them. The first one is called simple conjunction words. Words like and, but, as, while, once, these kind of words, they produce a weak linkage between the two sides of the argument. It's like saying, it's sunny today and it will rain tomorrow. They are totally unrelated, but you have put them together into one argument with the word and. And even though the two sides of the argument are technically unrelated, just planting these words force the listener to form a connection. Let's take some example. Have fun and do well in your interview. You are reading these words and beginning to feel nice. As you start grasping this concept, it becomes easy to figure how and where to use it. Using these words in your language seems challenging, but also notice your persuasion skills grow 10 times better. Now, if you were to rewind and replay each of these statements, you will notice that there are two parts of arguments joined together or coupled together using simple conjunctions, and therefore these sentences become meaningful and the arguments make sense. Just go back and play them again. Let's move on. The next category of causal linkage words is called implied causatives. These are words that introduce a medium binding strength or coupling strength by implying that one part of the linguistic argument causes the other part to occur. Words like cause, means, while, because, makes are simple examples of these kind of words. Here we make a statement that implies that one thing causes another thing to happen, or states that if one thing is true, therefore the next thing must also be true, although actually there may be no direct link between these two. Let's take some examples so that you understand how these words work. Now we'll take the first statement of the last example. Having fun means you will do well in your interview. Now you see, in the first case, when we used simple conjunctions, we said you are having fun and you will do well in your interview. Here we are saying having fun means you will do well in your interview. So the coupling is a lot stronger. Because you are intelligent, you will naturally feel relaxed as you read this line. Proceeding to read this second line means you are seriously interested in improving your persuasion skills. Now here, if you notice, proceeding to read this second line has actually no connection with you being seriously interested in improving your communication skills. But when we put the implied causative linkage word, it suddenly begins to make sense. Just read the sentence again. Let's take next one. Looking at this line and listening to my words can cause your eyes to become heavier and wanting to simply close. Let's move on to the third category of causal linkage words. These are called direct cause and effect words. These are words that establish a direct linkage between the two sides of the linguistic argument and hence induce the strongest connection or coupling. Words like makes, allows, produces, etc. Let's take some example. Let's take the first sentence of the last example. Having fun makes you do well in your interview. Now just read all the three together and see how each of these coupling words create a different level and strength of binding. Having fun makes you do well in your interview. Listening to my sound is making you feel nice and smile, right? Just listening to this concept alone is automatically allowing you to feel more confident about your communication skills already, isn't it? Now let's move on to the second category of words. This is the category which we would call as words that arouse a sense of possibility, basically inviting the unconscious mind to consider that suggestion. Now understand this carefully. There is a subtle difference between asking someone to do something versus asking them to consider doing something. Asking someone to consider doing something reduces resistance since their mind has to simply consider and not necessarily do it. However, in the process of considering the suggestion, the mind is actually forced to process it and experience it, and then assume it to be true. Typical operative words include words of possibilities such as can, could, able to, possibly, perhaps, would, may, might, looks like, quite likely, words like that which show a sense of possibility and plausibility. All you need to do is insert these words strategically within a sentence where you would like the listener to consider your suggestions. Let's take some examples to see how this works. It could make you feel curious already. Now note here that we are not saying that you are definitely curious, just saying that it could make you feel curious. And the listener might wonder, am I actually feeling curious? And the very fact that they ask themselves this question makes them feel curious. Got it? Okay, so let's move on and look at some more examples. Listening to this section is quite likely to get you ideas to handle that important problem that you have been working on for a long time. Some people could simply jump into actions as soon as they read this information. In fact, just reading this sentence could ignite new ideas about getting your career to take off from this point on. So friends, how do we put all of this together then? So before I explain that, let me remind you that the purpose behind this topic is to make you aware of designing sentences using a cocktail of conjunction words and plausibility words and also the hypnotic language pattern words to significantly amplify their influence on the listener. So far, we haven't yet actually moved to the hypnotic language pattern words. We have just discussed the first two categories, the conjunction or the causal linkage words and the words of possibility and plausibility. So right now, we will just focus on mixing together the conjunction words and the words of plausibility and possibility and see how just these two words combination can create a hypnotic effect on the listener. Let's take some examples. I agree the car is expensive and that means you can feel safer about its reliability and safety. Now, if I were to say the same argument using a stronger linkage words, how would that sound? Let's see. Agreed, the car being expensive makes us feel a lot safer because of its focus on reliability and safety features. Now, does that sound a little stronger and better? Let's take another example. Perhaps you might find this a bit confusing right now, and that makes you learn exciting new things you never knew before. The fact that our rates are higher means we can offer much better quality of service. Or let's put it with some other causal linkage words. Because our rates are high, you get a peace of mind on quality and good after sales service. Let's take another example. Our tough terms are making us feel very responsible for our present and past clients. Now here I have deliberately mentioned this sentence to demonstrate that when it comes to something that we offer, it's best not to mention the words of possibility. You see, words of possibilities are best to be used when applied to the listener because you want to create that possibility in their mind. Yes, reading a new book could make you notice how you are becoming open to changes and trying new stuff, right? Sitting here and listening to this conversation could make anyone feel really curious about what changes might happen. Now here, friends, I have used the word anyone because the listener will automatically apply it to themselves without realizing it. Whenever we use the word anyone, someone, the listener actually applies it to themselves, although we have not actually directly asked them to apply it to themselves, right? You could wonder how learning these language patterns will change your life, and that means you are already opening up to new possibilities for your career and relationships. So friends, as you can see, we have cleverly used a combination of linkage words and words of possibility and plausibility to join apparently disconnected concepts together into meaningful expressions. Mastering this skill is both a science as well as an art. Let me assure you that with practice, building such sentences will become natural for you. All we are doing is joining two or more unrelated concepts through linkage words and adding words of possibility where we want to lead the listener into accepting or considering a certain suggestion. Take a pause here and spend some time writing 15 to 20 such sentences. Don't worry if they don't feel right at first, but simply focus on building the skill. The more you practice, the easier it begins to become, making you feel confident in trying it out. Did you notice the language pattern I just used in the last sentence? Okay, so take care and see you soon. Bye bye.